In this video, we'll talk about one of the most common foods that we all regularly consume, which is bread. So, what kind of bread is healthy for us? If we go to any grocery store, we literally see hundreds of varieties of bread, and we typically make a decision about which bread to purchase based on its taste, how well a bread is packaged, or some other aspect, like if it has multi-grains or not. All of these qualities are very appealing to us on the surface, but unfortunately do not tell us much about the actual nutrient quality of the bread. Today, we'll talk about what you should look for in a bread before you make that purchase. So let's get started. Bread has been our staple food for centuries. It is mostly made from wheat, but it can be made from any kind of grain, like rye, rice, corn, and millet. The earliest description of bread dates back to even before the time of the pyramids, that is, more than 6,000 years ago. Our ancestors started making bread when they started transitioning from nomadic lifestyle to settling down in one place, which is also the time when agriculture began. Since then, the knowledge of baking bread has been passed along from generation to generation. The process of making bread remained pretty much the same until about a few decades ago, when we needed to mass produce bread because of population growth all around the world. This mass production added a lot of ingredients to the bread making process, as we needed to make bread faster. Bread became whiter, softer, and lasted much longer. Flour used to produce the bread became heavily processed. But unfortunately, this mass production has reduced the quality of the bread that we consume. Over the past several years, there has been a change in the attitude of the consumers, which is all of us. We want healthier options in everything that we eat and consume. And so, traditional bread, which is nutritionally superior, has made a comeback. The bread made from traditional methods is called sourdough bread. Let's talk about the differences between traditional bread making and commercial bread production. Traditional method of making bread just has 2 or 3 ingredients, which include flour, water, and salt. It uses the wild yeast and bacteria naturally present in the flour to make the bread. This doesn't have any of the unwanted ingredients used in commercial bread making process, and therefore can actually take several days to make the final product. Industrial or commercial bread production has a lot more ingredients, sometimes 20 or more, because bread is made in just few hours. It contains things like preservatives, added sugars, GMOs, and chemical conditioners, which are used to produce bread in less time. These breads have a longer shelf life, but are not really healthy for us. Now let's talk about how sourdough bread is healthier than commercial bread. It all comes down to the fermentation process that takes place over several days. The process confers several healthy qualities to the sourdough bread. Sourdough bread is typically more nutritious as it has quite a few minerals and vitamins, more so than commercial bread. It also has higher antioxidant content. Sourdough bread is easier to digest. It has a lower glycemic index, which is a term we use for the speed at which sugars enter our bloodstream after digestion. It does not have the blood sugar spike and drop that we typically get with commercial bread, as sugars are released slowly. This is a great plus for diabetics who have to watch their blood sugar. Slow fermentation process of traditional bread making makes it a lot easier for our body to absorb all the important ingredients that it comes with. Microorganisms present in sourdough bread help with gut health and metabolic health. Longer fermentation time helps improve the aroma of the bread, the flavor of the bread, and the texture of the bread. You can make sourdough bread from virtually any type of flour. For the most benefits, choose a sourdough bread made from whole grains over the one made from refined grains whenever possible. But sourdough bread sometimes can be hard to find. If you do not have sourdough bread in the store that you go to, then some of the other things that you should look before making the purchase of the bread are, is it a whole grain bread or white bread? Whole grain bread, like the name suggests, uses the whole flour made from the entire grain to make the bread. Wheat grain typically has an outer layer called bran, which is rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Inner layers are called endosperm and germ layer. All these 3 layers are made into flour and used for bread making in whole bread. On the other hand, white bread is made from flour after the bran and germ layers are removed, and this flour is made just from the endosperm. Therefore, it is called refined flour, as the endosperm is nothing but starch or sugar. Therefore, it lacks the healthy fiber, vitamins, and minerals. The other important thing to look for while making bread purchase is how much added sugar is in that bread. Added sugar is typically listed on the package and is usually listed as the amount of sugar per slice of bread. Personally, I will never purchase a bread if it has more than 1 to 2 grams of sugar per slice. Sourdough bread that I normally purchase has about 1 gram of sugar every 2 to 3 slices of bread. So 0.5 grams of sugar per slice or even less than that. Rest of the stuff like packaging of the bread, or if it has multi-grains or ancient grains like some bread companies like to call it, really is secondary and not that important, as it is mostly for marketing purposes. If you have a whole grain bread or sourdough bread with minimal added sugars, that's the bread you should purchase. Now let me show you the difference between the sourdough bread ingredients and the commercial bread production ingredients. I brought these two breads to show you the difference between a sourdough bread and an industrially produced commercial bread. The one on the left is a sourdough bread. The one on the right is a 100% whole wheat commercial bread. As you can see right away, they look different. The slices in this bread are more oval in shape, and the slices in this bread are more square in shape, which is what we are used to. And let's take a closer look. This is a multi-grain sourdough bread, and it's made from whole wheat. This has no GMOs. And if you turn this around, it says that this only has about 7 servings per container. But if you count the number of slices, there's more than 22, 23 slices in this bread. So each serving is about 3 slices of bread. And for one serving of bread, which is about 3 slices, the amount of added sugar is 1 gram. So it comes to about 0.3 grams of sugar per slice of bread. And at the bottom here, other ingredients are listed. Things like sourdough culture. This is a multi-grain bread, so it has sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and things like that. But there's no mention of any preservatives or conditioners. Now let's go to the commercial bread. In this bread, each serving is about 2 slices, and the amount of added sugar is 3 grams. So per slice, it comes to about 1.5 grams of sugar. When compared to the sourdough bread, which had only 0.3 grams of sugar, this bread has about 5 times more added sugar than sourdough bread. And going to the other ingredients, this bread has things like soybean oil, calcium propionate, sorbic acid, dough conditioner, all the things that you would expect in a commercial bread. One other thing I wanted to mention is that the purpose of purchasing a whole wheat bread is to avoid refined carbohydrates. But when you add so much refined carbohydrates, and added sugar is a refined carbohydrate, it defeats the purpose of purchasing a whole wheat bread. So now that you know the difference, next time you go to the store, choose your bread wisely. Hope that helps, and hope you learned something new today. Let me know what kind of bread you normally consume in the comment section.